the mariachi music.
In the dark of the night, whispers of deceit,
Shadows dance on the walls.
secrets they repeat, a shadowed figure
With eyes full of light.
hiding truths in the shadows where no one dares to pry. Uncover the truth, let the lies come undone. Peel back the layers until the light is shown. Uncover the truth, let the shadows run. Break free from the chains and find the sun. Uncover the truth in the dead of the night, where secrets lie hidden like a whispered bite. Uncover the truth in the dim of the light, where betrayals take root in the heart of the fight. In the rain-soaked streets, under the moon's pale light, a crime unfolds with a twisted, sinister might. A knife in the dark, a scream that rings clear.
I don't know how they come up with that.
You wrote it. That's what I can't get over.
So
I mean, you were coding websites in 1996, and now you're writing. You're a music producer for AI.
I know. Go into your dialogue because I'm gonna pick up this call while you go through. I'll mute myself here.
All right, go ahead.
Go into Karen Reed update.
I will. Go ahead. So this is Bloodlines and Betrayal. I am your host, the best podcast host in the universe, Steve Cully. We are going to begin. First of all, you're either with us or you're against us. We're the best political talk show in all of Massachusetts, all of Vermont, all of New Hampshire, all of Maine, all of Delaware, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New York. So I wanted to talk on Bloodlines to start. There's an issue with my favorite case. Well, it's not my case, Karen Reed, but it has to do with people involved in her case. As we know, the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, State Trooper Proctor, lost his job due to deplorable, disgraceful text messages found on his phone as he was making fun of Karen Reed. Said she had no ass, a Fall River accent, and a balloon bag, because she has health issues. She has MS. So he loses his job, whatever. There's a case that comes up, and it has to do with a man named Miles King. Now, Miles King is not close to Karen Reed. Miles King is not the best person. He's got a rap sheet, and the investigation into he's being charged with murder. The investigation was done properly. The evidence is astounding, and he's a rapper. He probably has committed this crime. However, his civil rights have been completely violated. So Adam Lally is the prosecutor on the case. Adam Lally was the first prosecutor on the Karen Reed case. The issue all has to do with Norfolk County in Massachusetts. Apparently in Norfolk County, they don't know how to operate. Things are just done upside down. They don't know how to function. They're liars, alcoholics, and seemingly bad people. So this man has been in prison for 4 years waiting on his trial. Now, his attorney has been struggling to get discovery on this case. So discovery obviously is what goes between the prosecution and defense. And that's the evidence that each group has. because they have to share. Each side has to know what the other side has and what is coming. So the prosecution, Adam Lally, has failed in 4 years to provide the discovery for Miles King in his case. 4 years. And this includes there were 6 search warrants. Those were never given over. Phone records, nothing. So this has been going on now for 2 months. They've been having hearings over it where the defense attorney, she is a pit bull. I'm trying to get what her name is. What the hell is her name? Oh, Rosemary Scarpaccio. She is a pit bull. So she gets Adam Lally on the stand last month, and she asked him about it. What do you do when you don't get discovery? He's like, oh, I ask again. Well, what happens if you don't get it then? Well, I go to the superior. Well, what happens if you don't get it again? I don't really do anything. I just wait. That's basically what he said. So the judge is getting completely frustrated. Very, very frustrated. So today, on Tuesday, Proctor and Lally were supposed to take the stand again. However, none of this happened because the discovery was not given to the defense, even after being ordered by Judge Krupp to be turned over. None of it happened. So Proctor was supposed to testify. He filed a motion to limit the scope of questioning to the King case because everyone wants a piece of him. Any case that he was involved with, people want his ass. So the judge was completely frustrated at counsel because none of the discovery documents were prepared in a way that could be easily understood. The defense tried to prepare them in a way to show, okay, this is what we have, this is what we need, and this is what we're disagreeing on. Okay? So Scarpaccio, King's attorney, accused the DA's office of dragging its feet when it comes to discovery and releasing information. Now she's filed a motion to have the case dismissed. This is nothing new. The same thing happened in the Karen Reed case. Karen Reed, for over 3 years, Alan Jackson, David Yannetti, they were getting discovery and quote unquote drips and drabs over the years. And they got some of it during the actual trial, which should have caused the case to be dismissed because it's a Rule 14 violation. Rule 14, it has to do with discovery and making sure both parties have it. So Rosemary Scarpaccio just is furious. The district attorney's office and Michael Proctor together have not done their job. They had an obligation, a constitutional obligation, to turn over evidence, and they haven't turned it over. And I'm talking 6 search warrants we didn't get, BRIC information we didn't get, cell phone calls, jail calls from my client when he was in custody. All of those were what we call, as I said, Rule 14 automatic discovery. And we don't get them for 4 years. A judge has given the defense limited access to Michael Proctor's work and telephone records, but they're going to be sealed to the public. So the hearing that happened again, so they had the hearing August 12th. So the judge, is now starting to lean towards the side of the defense. Just because they had this one meeting last week or 2 weeks ago, then they schedule another hearing for the 12th. And Scarpaccio's like, I'm blocking off hours upon hours upon hours for this. We're going nowhere, and it's costing me money. I could be working on other cases, and I'm stuck doing this. So Norfolk County prosecutors have continued disclosing evidence in the case, much of which Scarpaccio claims now is new as recently as July, despite King being indicted in 2021. So this time she gets a boatload of discovery, and it's all new. And she doesn't have time to go through it before the hearing that they had Tuesday, when she was supposed to question Lally and Proctor. Scarpaccio, then she filed the motion to dismiss in May, but she supplemented it this week because of the new evidence. I mean, she got a ton of it, and they've had 4 years to give it over. They had not. Peter Krupp, the judge, he is by the book. He's tough. He denied the motion initially. Now he's going to hear it. So his comments were, if recent notices of discovery were 1 or 2 items, I would get it. I would understand the argument, he said. But they are voluminous. They're pages and pages of stuff. This is all newly discovered stuff that, if was available, should have been produced a while ago. Now Krupp has set another deadline. That's what is so frustrating for me and pisses me off. And I don't live in Massachusetts. I don't have a dog in this fight, but just following it, Massachusetts, these judges just seem to kick the can every time. We'll just move it another month and another month and another month. So Krupp set a September deadline for prosecutors to finish turning over all evidence they have, which will allow Scarpaccio to give him a better understanding of what evidence was turned over late and why she believes it prejudices King, violating his civil rights. She was very happy outside the courtroom. She said that they made significant progress, explaining that once prosecutors file what is known as a certificate of compliance, she can give Krupp an inventory of all the new evidence and an explanation as to why it's prejudicial. So she feels we're in a better position than we were when we first walked into this court. Krupp now has set an October hearing for the arguments on Scarpaccio's motion to dismiss. And then at that hearing, depending on what happens, a trial date is going to be set. So this man, Miles King, is not going to go to trial until 2026, most likely, despite being indicted in 2021. And there's no statute of limitations on murders, so they can drag their feet. And Scarpaccio is furious. It's all the fault of the Commonwealth. This lies on their lap because they refuse to do their job. The motion to dismiss King's case, which I mentioned, was the evidentiary hearing they had last month where Lally took the stand and testified. And she had wanted Michael Proctor to, the lead investigator, and he just didn't show up. So it's not clear when that hearing will resume, but Scarpaccio argued it's necessary because he was the lead investigator. She needs to get to the bottom of why some of the evidence wasn't turned over for years. It was only after a new prosecutor took over the case that Scarpaccio began receiving some evidence, like the search warrants obtained by Proctor, even though prosecutors are required to disclose that material immediately. So the next hearing is not until freaking Halloween. Halloween. The good news is Miles King is out on bail. Well, that's good and bad. But so over the summer, after a series of motions by Scarpaccio to get the bail reduced, she's like, this man's been sitting in jail for 4 years. I've received no discovery. We're not moving forward with the trial. He needs lower bail. He needs to be held on lower bail. He needs a chance to get out. So Krupp initially it set it like $1 million, then dropped it to $100,000, and I believe then it got dropped to 10 grand, and he ended up paying 2,500. Miles King is not the best person. He is a violent offender. He, in my opinion, most likely committed this crime. They have basically him in his car with the gun, I believe, confessing. There's just a lot that goes into it. So it's disturbing that the Commonwealth, Governor Maura Healey, allows this to happen. District Attorney of Norfolk County, Meatball Michael Morrissey. He is a blowhard, jackass. I wouldn't urinate on him if he was on fire, because of what he put the Karen Reed family through, what he put the John O'Keefe family through, what he's doing to Miles Garrett, even though, or Miles King, even though he's not, there's a ton of evidence against him and he would most likely have been convicted. If they had gone to trial 2 years ago with the evidence and followed the rules and shared discovery, would have been convicted. They chose not to do it. They chose not to do it that way. So it's been 4 years. This guy's been sitting behind bars, and enough is enough. And in my opinion, they should drop the charges. The motion to dismiss should be granted. And maybe a murderer being freed will finally spark a change in Norfolk County, because nothing else has been able to do that. I mean, they have rehomed some of the state troopers and investigators from the Karen Reed case. They've moved some of the detectives to different offices, different positions, desk jobs as a result of such misconduct. But Michael Morrissey's got to go. And I believe this is an election year, and I don't see him winning. I don't see him winning. And I know that this is the first time in years that he's actually had some challengers. He's got challengers for his election. He has been on the job forever. He, in my opinion, is a disgrace. He has a burner email account. Yes, the district attorney of Norfolk County has a burner email, which he uses to send professional emails when he doesn't want a record of them being tracked to his work email. He's got a Gmail account, Michael Morrissey. So that's what's been going on in Norfolk County. Michael Proctor arrived, and he was heckled as he should be. He is still diligently trying to get his job back, which is even just crazier to me that he thinks that he should be on the job. Now, the only thing I will kind of agree with is he was fired, over text messages that were found on his personal phone. I think anyone's personal phone may contain text messages that could be offensive, could be frowned upon. So for that reason, I kind of see it, but that doesn't change what he said and how he basically jumped to the conclusion Karen Reed was guilty, regardless. I mean, from the start, it was Karen Reed. So the other story going on with Turtle Boy, my hero, the blogger from Worcester, Massachusetts, he is under indictment for witness intimidation from the Karen Reed trial. I believe 10 indictments, 10 people. It was 16, but he was able to get 16 dropped. So he had a motion hearing yesterday, and we found out that when evidence was presented to the grand jury, the Commonwealth lied. They lied. Ken Mello was the special prosecutor, and he had Brian Tully on the stand, an investigator. And they cited certain excerpts from Turtle Boy's YouTube show, which is, a lot of it is satire, a lot of it is humor, a lot of it is joking. So they purposely changed the titles of the show to make them look more menacing. And Ken Mello, the special prosecutor, had Brian Tully go over them. So, for example, they claimed one of his shows was titled Confronting McCabe Outside Norfolk Superior, when the actual title was The McCabes Want to Kill Me. Sean McCabe isn't happy Karen Reed speaks out. That was the title of the show. The prosecution presented to the grand jury that, they're confronting McCabe outside Norfolk Superior. Another one, need to go to McCabe's soccer game again, is what they said the title of his show was. When the actual title was Karen Reed Case, Where's Michael Proctor? So this went on and on. Another one, Call to Colin Albert, they said was the title. When the title was Amari King wants to fight Turtle Boy, Canton updates, anti-Bev Canone out of control. So they completely misrepresented what he was doing on the shows, and this was all done by a government informant and a known Turtle Boy hater, aka Krusty Panties. Krusty Panties, Catherine Peter. The nickname Krusty Panties disgustingly comes because when she would menstruate, she would just let it percolate in her underwear, and it would be crusty. Just crusty blood. Hence the nickname Krusty Panties. And she used to work for Turtle Boy as a blogger. She actually called Turtle Boy her idol and hero. And they had a falling out 6 years ago, I believe, because she stole money from him. She stole advertising revenue from him. And she also burned a truck that contained Turtle Boy merchandise. So they were going to have an amicable split. They agreed not to go after each other. She started coming out firing, talking about what an awful guy he was. And Turtle Boy gave this woman a platform. Krusty Panties had 4 children. 2 of them, all of them had been taken away by DCFS at certain points because she has a serious drug problem, alcohol problem. She's got 2 kids with one person, and then I think 2 kids with another man, and now she's with another guy. But she's a victim of domestic violence, and she's also dating. She's been dating a guy, she calls him her husband, Andrew Johnson. They're not married. She's still technically married to her second husband, Stephen Young, who's moved to Montana, turned his life around, and he's been trying to get her to sign divorce papers so he can remarry, and she refuses to. She dates a scumbag named Andrew Johnson, another drug addict and a woman beater, and he has attacked Krusty Panties, Kate Peter. The police have been called to their house several times, and he even threatened her daughter, put hands on her daughter. He put hands on Turtle Boy. He's just a bad guy. He's a drug addict and an abuser. And Kate Peter is married to him. Kate Peter has managed to have a lot of success with her new channel, the Masshole Mafia, or the Masshole Troll Mafia. That's their group. They do YouTube shows like Turtle Boy, but her main goal in life is to torment Turtle Boy. So she set out basically because Turtle Boy was supporting Karen Reed, Krusty Panties was hired by the O'Keefe family to handle media relations and support them. She went out of her way. She's like, we got to get Turtle Boy arrested. And she formulated a plan with a woman Turtle Boy was seeing, and it's all documented. There's text messages, there's emails, and Krusty Panties was going through Turtle Boy's shows and clipping certain parts that, taken out of context, would look bad, when in reality he's just making a joke. And she's actively sending them to Brian Tully, state investigator, and Ken Mello, the special prosecutor, that are trying to get Turtle Boy. So this went on, and then Turtle Boy was arrested for the incident with the fake victim, Lindsay Gattani, somebody that he was not dating, but he was fornicating with. And she lied to him and said that she was pregnant. And this really, messed him up. He was having struggles in his marriage and it was coming to an end. But Gattani says she's pregnant. She sends him a sonogram picture. Turtle Boy's not a dumb guy. Turtle Boy looks at the metadata, which tells you where and when the picture was taken. The sonogram picture was taken in 2021. Turtle Boy keeps this to himself, and she keeps going on with the pregnancy angle. And so he changes his tune. He's like, yeah, I want to be in the kid's life. I'm excited to be a dad again. It's a boy. That's great. So she said it was a boy. And he said, I'll support you either way. And so she went back and forth. She wanted to go have an abortion. He took her to the clinic. Nothing happened. And then December 23rd, 2023 is when everything blew up. Ken Mello, Brian Tully, Krusty Panties concocted a plan to have Turtle Boy arrested because the witnesses in the Karen Reed trial were sad. Their feelings were hurt because Turtle Boy was saying things about him on their show that they didn't like. So they said, oh, you got to do something. You got to arrest him. And every single one of them tried to get a harassment protection order against Turtle Boy. Jen McCabe, Jill Daniels. I mean, they all did. And Chris Albert, I believe, did as well. They all got denied because there was nothing that showed Turtle Boy was, you have to be a threat physically. He threatened physical violence. He never did that. They basically went to these hearings and said, I need a protection order because he's talking about me and saying bad things that I don't like. And the judge is like, well, where do you have anything else? Where's the rest of the evidence? And they're like, that's it. I mean, look what he said about me. He called me a fupasaurus. And the judge is like, I can't grant a harassment protection order based on him calling you a fupasaurus. He has a First Amendment right for free speech. So after they all were not able to get protection orders, they plotted to have him arrested. And that is when Lindsay Gattani called Turtle Boy on December 23rd and said, I need to talk to you. Come over. I'm going to take the abortion pill. And Turtle Boy is like, yeah, your fake pregnancy. You're going to take the abortion pill. Right. And she's like, no, I need you. Come over. Please come over. So he comes over, he records everything because he smells something's up, and he will not go in her apartment. He said, I'll come over, I'll meet you in the lobby. He first wanted to meet at a public place. She wouldn't do it. He came over, they met in the lobby, they talked, and then she went in her room and she allegedly called Kate, Peter, Tully, and Mello, asking, like, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Then she texted her son to call and say that they needed her in the house. So she went in the house and she said, can you come in, please? So we went in. And then she had a fake grand jury summons from Ken Mello. Ken Mello was the special prosecutor who indicted Turtle Boy on the witness intimidation. She's like, oh, they want me to testify. What do I do? What do I do?
All right, I'm back.
Oh, okay.
Can we go to the Boston Massacre? Because I've heard you talk about Karen Reed.
Yeah. No, I was just saying.
What's the final thing with the whole Karen Reed scenario?
This had nothing to do with Karen Reed. This had to do with so Miles King was arrested for murder in 2021. Okay. And the same prosecutor from the Karen Reed case is in trouble because in 4 years, King's attorney has not received any of the discovery from the case. The search warrants, the cell phone evidence, none of it. So they had a hearing on Tuesday, and the defense attorney got a boatload of discovery. And she's like, this is ridiculous. This violates his civil rights. They've had this the entire time. They're just giving it to me. It's 4 years later. I'm making a motion to dismiss. So she filed a motion to dismiss, and the judge is pissed. So the judge orders the prosecution that they have to disclose all discovery by September 1st. And they're having another hearing on October 31st about the motion to dismiss. And then if it doesn't go through, then they're going to set a trial date. So this guy who has been in jail since 2021 isn't going to go to trial until 2026. And because of the discovery issues, the judge reduced his bail, and he's been out on bail since July. And this is different because Miles King is actually a murderer and a bad person. And he did this. But the same investigator, Michael Proctor, who wrote all those horrible text messages about Karen Reed, was the lead investigator on this case. Right. So they subpoenaed his phone records and everything. So that's what they're trying to show. And I think he's a bad person. He's a rapper. He's committed other crimes, a felon. I think they should dismiss the case, because I think if they do that, then maybe it'll send a message to the Commonwealth in Norfolk County that changes have to be made if a murderer is gone free. So that's what I was talking about.
Interesting.
The Boston Massacre, I did not know this. It was in 1770. So it was during the American Revolution in Boston, in what was then the colonial era province of Massachusetts Bay. So you mentioned the confrontation. It was 9 British soldiers that shot several in the crowd. Now, this we talked about yesterday. I didn't know this. It was estimated to be 300 to 400 people who were going after them. Like you said, they were drunk and they were harassing them.
Wow, that's a lot of people. I didn't realize.
Yes, that's what I said. I didn't know it was that many. So there were 300 to 400 people who were fucking with them, and they're throwing shit at them.
And there's just 9 soldiers. That's it.
Right. And it was described as a massacre by Samuel Adams, as you said. Paul Revere, and other of the leading patriots who became central proponent. Like you said, this, I didn't know this. This like started the war. Like it was a big kickoff of the war. This later became central. They all became central proponents of independence during the American Revolution and Revolutionary War because of this freaking incident. So amid tense relations between civilians and the soldiers, a mob formed around British sentry and verbally abused him. I don't know what a British sentry is, probably a general or whatever. He eventually, supported by 7 additional soldiers led by Captain Thomas Preston, who were hit by clubs, stones, and snowballs. They're throwing snowballs at him. Eventually, one soldier fired, prompting the others to fire without an order by Preston. And like you said, the gunfire killed 3 people and wounded 8 others, 2 who also died from their wounds.
Later on, right? Yeah. From the injuries.
The crowd eventually dispersed after the acting governor, Thomas Hutchinson, promised an inquiry, but they reformed the next day, prompting the withdrawal of the troops to Castle Island. So the troops left. And
Wow.
8 soldiers, 1 officer, and 4 civilians were arrested and charged with murder. And like you said, they were defended in court by attorney and future president John Adams.
Which is so amazing to me.
I'm blown away by that. Blown away by that.
Because he becomes one of the leaders of the American Revolution.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
He's one of the lawmakers. He becomes one of the
he was a founding father. One of the founding fathers.
The continued resentment of it's so funny because you think about taxation now, we're taxed to death. But it was it's fueled by taxation policies
without representation,
and soldiers enforcing them, right? So basically locking you up for not paying your taxes.
Exactly. Yes. So it said in, I didn't know this either, in the 18th century, Boston was the capital of the province of Massachusetts Bay. It was an important shipping town along with Philadelphia.
It's the capital of Massachusetts, isn't it?
No, Springfield is.
No, it's not.
Yes, Springfield's the capital of Massachusetts.
No, Boston is.
No, Springfield is. I'll bet you a Blumpkin that Springfield's the capital of Massachusetts.
What is the capital of Massachusetts?
I get a Blumpkin.
Boston.
Boston is not the capital of Massachusetts.
Look it up.
Springfield is.
No, it is not.
What did you just look up? Where did you look it up on?
Massachusetts is Boston.
Okay. You're not.
Can't challenge me on history.
You are wrong. It is Springfield.
It is not.
Or maybe am I thinking of Springfield, Illinois?
Look it up.
It's
Boston. Thank you.
Am I thinking of Springfield, Illinois? God damn it.
Are you kidding Illinois me? Is the capital of Illinois, correct?
Oh, fuck me. God damn it. I didn't know Boston was the capital. You're right. Fine. Fuck you. You win. Ugh.
Par for the course.
I swear I thought it was Springfield.
Listen, there's 2 things.
I know. I can't challenge you on history.
History, geography.
Oh,
history, geography.
Okay.
History, geography. I don't know exactly where the Congo is.
So in 1768, the Townsend Acts were enacted in the 13 colonies, placing tariffs on a variety of common items that were manufactured in Britain and imported to the colonies. Now, this is when everything started to heat up. The colonists objected that the acts were a violation of the natural charter and constitutional rights of British subjects in the colonies. Because, like you said, the colonies were made up of British people that had come over. So the Massachusetts House of Representatives began a campaign against the acts by sending a petition to King George III asking for a repeal of the Townshend Revenue Act. And they called for a boycott of merchants importing the affected goods. So it's getting hot in Mass. It's really starting to, like, there's violence, there's protests, there's a ton of stuff going on. Boston's chief customs officer, Charles Paxton, wrote to Hillsborough for military support because the government is as much in the hands of the people as it was of the time of the Stamp Act, which you mentioned. The Stamp Act pissed a lot of people off.
That's what really pissed John Adams off.
Yes. And then Commodore Samuel Hood sent 50 gun warships to the Boston Harbor in May of 1768. And on June of 1768, customs officers seized the Liberty, a sloop owned by leading Boston merchant John Hancock, on allegations that the ship had been involved in smuggling. So the Bostonians, who were already angry, they had been impressing local sailors. That's when they really began to riot, and like people were scared. Customs officials fled. Massachusetts was considered in a total, like, unstable state of affairs, which I had no idea that, like, Boston was so volatile during this time.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a ton going on, and then the newspaper articles just keep gassing it up. It chronicled the clashes between the civilians and the soldiers in Boston, feeding tensions. And as we all know, what does the media do? It sensationalizes and exaggerates. So, and that's exactly what they did. So now this is another huge moment. Tensions rose tremendously after Christopher Sider, an 11-year-old kid, was killed by a customs employee in 1770. Christopher Snyder, his death was covered on the Boston Gazette, and his funeral was described as the largest in the time of Boston. So that murder and then the media coverage blew up tensions with the groups, and colonists were going out looking for soldiers to harass, and soldiers were also looking for confrontation. So there was so much that led up to this over those 2 years that they hated each other. Whenever they saw each other, they fucked with each other. So, a wigman's apprentice who was 13 years old, named Edward Garrick, called out to Captain Lieutenant John Goldfinch, accusing him of refusing to pay a bill due to Garrick's master Goldrich had settled the account the previous day and ignored the insult. Private White called out to Garrick that he should be more respectful to the officer. This is a 13-year-old kid they're yelling at, and the two exchanged insults. So the 13-year-old starts poking. He's poking the captain lieutenant in the chest. And Yeah, with his finger. And so the Private White left his post, challenges the kid, and then strikes him on the side of the head with a musket. The kid cried out in pain, and like this was blasphemy. Again, tensions rising. So now the crowd there is forming around Private White, the one who struck the kid.
Right.
And the boisterous church bells were rung, which usually signified fire. More people were coming out. More than 50 Bostonians pressed White, led by a mixed-race former slave named Crispus Atticus. I believe you mentioned his name, throwing objects and challenging him to fire his weapon. White was scared to death, and like he was taking a really safe position, trying to stay away. The captain was trying to keep control, and it didn't happen. So they completely lied on the report of this incident. And that's what also, again, it kept inflaming affairs. So what happened was the crowd continued to press around the soldiers, taunting them by yelling fire, spitting at them. And then we talked about throwing snowballs, bottles, all small objects. Innkeeper Richard Palms was carrying a Krugel, and he came up to Preston and asked if the soldiers' weapons were loaded. Preston assured them they were, but they would not fire unless he ordered it. And he later stated in a deposition that he was unlikely to do so since he was standing in front of them. He's like, we're not going to shoot. We're not going to shoot. So an object was then thrown and struck another Private Montgomery, knocking him down, causing him to drop his musket. And this is what allegedly happened. He recovered his weapon, angrily shouted, "Damn you, fire." Then he discharged it into the crowd, although no command was given. And then all people were fighting, and there were shooting. There was a pause of several seconds, and then finally the soldiers all fired into the crowd. It was not a disciplined volley since Preston never gave orders to fire. The soldiers fired a rigged series of shots, which hit 11 men. The 3 died instantly. Rope Master Samuel Gray, Mariner James Caldwell, and the Crispus Atticus, who you talked about. Samuel Maverick, a 7-year-old apprentice, was struck by a ricocheting musket ball and died. Irish immigrant Patrick Carr was shot in the abdomen, ended up being a fatal wound, died 2 weeks later. Apprentice Christopher Monk, seriously wounded, ended up being crippled, died 10 years later due to the injuries. The crowd ended up moving away from the immediate area, but the crowd then continued to grow. Captain Preston immediately called out most of the 29th Regiment, which adopted defensive procedures in front of the State House. They were protecting the State House now because the governor's there. So now the acting governor, Thomas Hutchinson, he has to come out because the movement is becoming so volatile. So he walks out to his balcony, and he tries to restore order. And he really isn't able to do it. But he promises, listen, if you guys don't settle down, we're going to shoot. But I'm also promising you that there will be a fair inquiry into the shootings if you guys disperse. So he kept his word. The crowd dispersed, and then the governor immediately began investigating the affair. In Preston, and 8 soldiers were arrested the next morning. So I give him credit for that. Like, this guy stuck to his word, did the investigation, and it's not like it took weeks, months, whatever. Right. They arrested 8 soldiers the next morning.
At that time, they're trying to squash a rebellion
Yes,
brewing.
Because it had been brewing for 2 years, and it's just escalating and escalating. And you're right. They did not want a full-on riot that they couldn't handle because they were outnumbered. Right. They were outnumbered. Boston selectmen then asked him to order the troops to move out of the city out to Castle William on Castle Island. I don't know where Castle Island is, probably at Martha's Vineyard or something. While colonists held a town meeting in what you like to call Faneuil Hall, all the halls there, to discuss the affair. The governor's council was initially opposed to ordering the troop withdrawal, and Hutchinson explained that he actually didn't have the authority to order the troops because that went to the lieutenant. He's just the governor. At that time, he had no control over law enforcement. Lieutenant Colonel William Dalrymple was the council charged its position, and unanimously under duress, according to Hutchinson, agreed to request the troops' removal. Secretary of State Andrew Oliver reported that had the troops not been removed, they would probably be destroyed by the people, like you said, and it would have been a rebellion. It said the people would have outnumbered them and destroyed them, regardless of the guns. So they were transferred to the island. And then in the days after this, now, it's still crazy because it happened back then and it happened today. The propaganda battle started between the patriots and the loyalists in Boston with the media. You know, they were publishing pamphlets, and they were each telling different stories. They were each trying to control the narrative. And they were actually publishing this news in London to try to make, the colonies look bad. The Boston Gazette's version of events, for example, characterized the massacre as part of an ongoing scheme to quell the spirit of liberty. And it harped on the negative consequences of quartering troops in the city, which I kind of agree with. Like, if there's military troops in your city or town, isn't that's going to raise tensions? Like, that's going to make people nervous, right?
Sure.
It's going to increase stress. So, there's, everyone disputes kind of how everything happened. And the media was in a frenzy for days and weeks and days and weeks. So the investigation goes on. Depositions take place. They have 90 depositions taken after the event. And it included accusations that the soldiers sent by Captain Preston had been deployed with the intention of causing harm, which he categorically denied. And, several people had said that they asked him, he's like, nobody's going to shoot unless I give the order. I'm not giving the order to shoot. And, they did this trying to minimize the interest and impact of the jury pool. City leaders held back by local distribution of pamphlets, but they sent copies to the other colonies and to London to tell them the truth, where they knew that the depositions were headed, which Governor Hutchinson had collected. So this is how news was done. I mean, there was a paper and they printed these pamphlets, and that's how they spread everything. Hutchinson, all his depositions were eventually published in a pamphlet entitled A Fair Account of the Late Unhappy Disturbance in Boston, and draw mainly from the depositions of soldiers. Its account of the affairs sought to blame the Bostonians for denying the validity of parliamentary laws. It also blamed the city's citizens for lawlessness preceding the event, and claimed that this was a planned ambush. So that blows my mind. And then the trial happens. Okay. So the part. Okay. So John Adams, like you said, he represents this Captain Preston and the soldiers, and
Right.
he goes, the part I took in defense of Captain Preston and the soldiers procured me anxiety and obliquity enough. I don't know what that means. That's probably a 17th century word. It was, however, one of the most gallant, generous, manly, disinterested actions of my whole life, and one of the best pieces of service I ever rendered my country. Judgment of death against those soldiers would have been as foul a stain upon this country as the execution of the Quakers or witches anciently. As evidence was, the verdict of the jury was exactly right. This, however, is no reason why the town should not call the action of that night a massacre, nor is it an argument in favor of the governor or minister who caused them to be sent here. But the strongest proofs of danger standing, it proved the danger of standing armies. So that was John Adams' quote, and that's why he represented him. The government was determined to give the soldiers a fair trial, so there could be no grounds for retaliation, and the British moderates would not be alienated. The trial of the 8 other soldiers, so they tried the captain, then the other soldiers. Adams told the jury to look beyond the fact the soldiers were British. That's very bold. He referred to the crowd that had provoked the soldiers as a motley rabble of saucy boys, Negroes, and mulattoes, Irish teagues, and outlandish Jack Terraces, which is Jack Tars, which are sailors. He then said, and why should scruple to call such a set of people a mob? I can't conceive, unless the name is too respectable to them. The sun is not about to stand still or go out, nor the rivers to dry up, because there was a mob in Boston on March 5th that attacked a party of soldiers. And then he also described the slave, Crispus Attucks, saying his very look was enough to terrify any person, and that with one hand he took hold of a bayonet, and with another he knocked the man down.
Well,
However,
Crispus Attucks was 6'2".
Yes, yeah, that's what we mentioned.
Big,
that
strong guy.
but however,
he would pull whales into the boat.
Yes. However, 2 witnesses contradicted this statement testifying Atticus was 12 to 15 feet away from the soldiers when they began firing, too far away to take hold of a bayonet. But Adams stated it was Atticus's behavior that in all probability, the dreadful carnage of that night is chiefly to be ascribed. So he blamed this guy for the carnage. And he argued the soldiers had a legal right to fight back against the mob, and they were innocent. If they were provoked but not endangered, he argued, then it's manslaughter. So that 6 of the soldiers got acquitted, and there was only 2.5 hours of deliberation, and only two of the soldiers were found guilty of manslaughter because of the depositions. There were overwhelming evidence that they had fired directly into the crowd. So the jury's decisions suggest that they believe the soldiers had felt threatened by the crowd, but should have delayed firing. And, you know, the convicted soldiers pled benefit of clergy, the right to a lesser sentence for a first offender. So they kind of got off. Now, the one thing that did have an impact, Patrick Carr, who was the one who died 10 years later from his wounds, his deathbed account of the event played a role in exonerating 8 defendants of murder charges. And this is the testimony of his surgeon, John Jeffries. Were you Patrick Carr's surgeon? Yes. Was he apprehensive of his danger? He told me he was a native of Ireland and had frequently seen mobs and soldiers called upon to quell them. He had seen soldiers often fire on the people in Ireland, but had never seen them bear half so much before they fired in his life. What had you last conversation? What was the last conversation you had with him? At about 4:00 in the afternoon preceding the night which he died, he then particularly said he forgave the man that shot him, and he was satisfied he had no malice, but fired to defend himself. So he was basically saying, I got shot, but I forgive the soldier because the soldier was defending himself. That's why he fired. So, as you said, the legacy, which I never knew this. The Boston Massacre is considered one of the most significant events that turned colonial sentiment against King George III and British parliamentary authority. John Adams wrote that the foundation of American independence was laid on March 5th, 1770, when this happened. And Samuel Adams and other patriots used annual commemorations, Massacre Day, to encourage public sentiment towards independence. And Christopher Monk was the boy who was wounded in the attack and died in 1780. And his memory was honored as a reminder of British hostility. So then, you know, the events that preceded this were like the Boston Tea Party. That was the other thing they did that was awesome. I never knew like Boston was kind of the starting point for the Revolutionary War. I had no idea like this is where all the tension started. This is where all the hatred started. This is where all the thoughts of independence started.
Yep.
And you knew this because you knew history.
Yeah, I'm good at history.
But let me just ask because the Declaration of Independence wasn't written until 1776, correct?
Correct.
Is that when the war technically started, or had the war already started?
The war had already started.
Okay, that's what I
I
thought.
don't remember. Yeah, there were shots fired at Lexington and Concord. That's like the first shots.
That's what I thought.
And then the Battle of Bunker Hill.
The Battle of Bunker. That's what I thought started the war. The Battle of Bunker Hill. But John, everything says that this Boston Massacre in 1770, which is what started the thought of independence and going for it. Like
Right.
you said in 2008 to your coaches, we're going for it. We're running 44 camps. They said we're going for it. We're going to be independent.
They went for it.
That's just amazing. But like you said, I think it shows the honor of John Adams that despite his beliefs, he represented the soldiers and the captain to the best of his ability. And because of his values, he thought he was doing what's right. And he saved their lives. And then that's amazing that, for him to do that and then come around and say, I represented the soldiers that did this massacre, but this massacre is also the reason we need independence. That just shows his character and values.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
That's amazing. That's impressive to me.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. It's impressive, But
all right. Well, did everything work out with your call?
Yes, everything worked out good.
Okay.
But yeah, it's good. It worked out good. What was I gonna say? What was I going to say? The most interesting thing about the Boston Massacre is how the propaganda of the time
that's what inflamed it.
Taking the incidents of what happened and being able to get it around the rest of the colonies
and the world,
and gain empathy when information was so slow back then. So it's amazing how Sam Adams was able to make a machine out of it. Paul Revere made a machine out of it and was able to rally revolution. It's amazing how things like that. There was no social media, that was like the first viral that
was a news cycle. Yeah,
that was the viral moment. Boston Massacre is the first and then big viral moment, and it's interesting because that was 1770, right? So it still took
a few years before the war started.
Yeah. When was Lexington and Concord? When was Lexington and Concord was 1775.
Okay, so that's right around.
It took 5 years from the Boston Massacre time period till you got to the first shots at Lexington and Concord.
Right.
Which I think is pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, it took so long.
When was Bunker Hill? That was for 2 months after Lexington and Concord. And then when was the what do you call it? Boston Tea Party.
That was the best.
That was 1773, December.
Yeah, That's funny.
They
Oh,
dressed as
Boston, man. Boston, they're tough.
Yep. And then when was Paul Revere ride? Paul Revere's ride was in 1775. So right before Bunker Hill. In April of 1770. Oh no, before Lexington and Concord, the day before. All right, so on the evening of April 1870, Dr. Joseph Warren summoned Paul Revere, gave him the task of riding to Lexington with the news that the British
let him know.
the day before. The British, okay, that's why the British are coming. The British are coming, so they could warn them that they were coming to Lexington, which is interesting. It's so interesting how the seeds of revolution all started right in Boston. It's also it's amazing. It's amazing.
So Frank wanted to do Rebel. Do you mind if I do a Rebel with him tonight?
No, go ahead, do it. Yeah.
Okay. Because I know you have other stuff going on
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, he really wants to do it, so I was gonna go up there.
All right.
Is it he's just swamped. He can't leave his business for that long.
Right. Well, the pizza place, right?
Yeah, his employees are just
They've been having a party since he's been gone.
They're dumb, and Frank works like a maniac when he's there.
Does he really?
He's in by 9 a.m. and he's making all the bread, all the dough, all the pastries. Like he works like a machine. The two hardest working people I know, Frank's father and Frank.
Does his father still work in the pizza joint?
He comes around every now and then. He doesn't work, but he'll come around and he'll scare people.
Wow.
Whenever they see the old man, they get scared. I told you the story about Woodstock with him.
Right.
When it's 90 degrees, he's got a dress shirt and khakis on, and he's just working like a maniac with the baked potatoes and the calzones in the oven, and none of us can keep up with him, and he's yelling at us, faster, because he can't speak English.
That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, so Frank's gonna catch up on that, but he did want to do a Rebel. So I was gonna go up there, and then there's some high school games on I was gonna catch.
There was a high school game on yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago.
Yeah, there was. Yes. Yeah. Julius told me it was Milton, I think.
Yeah, Milton. Milton lost, I guess.
Milton Julius has some kids there.
Does he?
Yeah. Yeah, he's got some kids in Milton. So
are we meeting with Filippiano today?
No, that's next Wednesday. Wednesday at 1. So this is what we've been doing with Julius that's worked out. Because we lost paying to be on the show. So he created this virtual program.
Okay.
And it's a virtual training program. He shows them how to lift weights, run, agility drills, technique work, all that stuff. So that is what we have been selling. So we'll have the kids on the show. Then they get a call with Julius, and he sets them up with their virtual program. And that's been making money. So that's what I was going to suggest to you, because you already have the stuff. If you had like a virtual quarterback program that you could put together, that easily I have probably 5 or 6 quarterbacks that have reached out that would pay to do something like that. And then, like with Julius, if you do his virtual program, you're allowed to go to the 5v5 tournaments next year as a Trench Mob member, and you can go to any camps. You can come train in Georgia whenever you want. So
it's an idea.
I just thought of you for that if you wanted to do something like that with quarterbacks, because I have 2 for you that are interested in recruiting, but
Okay.
I'll give you their contact. I'll give you their contact info. But that's what I thought, because you have so much stuff anyway. I figured you could throw something together.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, I mean it's really like it's worked. Like, I mean, I can't. We're backed up 3 weeks with kids on the show, and they're from all over the country. And then we show their film. Julius calls them the next day. We get them signed up for the virtual program, and that's been working out well.
Very cool.
So
okay, so yeah, I'll think about that.
yeah, I just thought, because you work with quarterbacks and you know what to do, that you could throw something together. And I've already talked to a few who are, I got to pass on to you for recruiting, but they would probably do the training.
Right. Okay. All right, that sounds good.
All right. So yeah, I'll text you. I'm gonna go up to Frank's. Do you mind us doing it on your channel, or do you want
No, if you want, I'll set it up for what time.
All right, yeah, just set it up. I'll text you probably 8, but I'll text you.
All right, text me. Sounds good, bro. Great job.
Great show. Great numbers. All right. Take care.
All right, man. Have a great day.